Okay, recording in 3, 2, 1, and go. Alright, and we are off. Hey guys, Spazzy Dragon aka Syndrome's here, and welcome to the second part of our DiscoTalk Developer AMA livestream. Today I have not just Justin, but I also have Unseelie. Say
Hello.
And we also have Justin.
Hey, how's it going?
Good men. Okay, guys, so this is terrible. Now there's two of them. Okay, so
yeah, we're multiplying.
Yup. And it is time to continue where we left off.
So, where did we leave off? We left off at the end of page 2.
Pretty much, which is terrible because I am actually logged into my forum account, and I have the biggest, Oh, I have the thing set. It's all on one page for me. You split it off, didn't you?
Yeah, there was a
Yes.
split.
Okay, so I guess the next we just go from there. It's
Start from the beginning of page. Yeah.
It's Ghostarazi then. Would you count the Gallic War as a success or a failure to the mod? At this, we could quite complicated answer. Maybe just breaking it down to points will help. And what will the things that you think you failed and succeed to achieve with this chapter?
That's a big one we just opened on to.
Have fun.
Robert, do you want to comment first, or?
We have had a history of over a decade of different decisions, plans, and theories about what the Gallic War is. So whether or not we can say it's a success or a failure is really difficult. Do I think the mod is better because we're running the Gallic War? I think our events, even though they've occasionally had their issues, have been very engaging. I think the story arc of the Gallic War has driven a level of engagement that has been a good thing. Would I do it again? No.
So the question is there a chance we can actually take the same levels of engagement that has been achieved with this sort of approach, make it easier on both the devs and the players, and spit it out into something else? Basically, is there a way to achieve this a little bit more elegantly?
Well,
we can. Yeah, go ahead.
No, so what I want to say here is that when Gallia was introduced, I can't confirm or deny this since I'm not Igus. I've actually asked Igus about this. I've never gotten a clear answer out of him. But we don't know if there is or was a plan when Gallia was introduced. So, first of all, I think going into things with a concrete end goal rather than, a bunch of different teams dropping the ball halfway through and leaving it for the other guy to clean up is that's probably the way to do it. If you're gonna, step down, leave a game plan at least. We were fortunate that Tyrion had kind of planned into the future a bit, and even though we didn't adhere exactly to what he had planned, and in fact, I would say we largely deviated from it, we still knew what the intent was. Igus and other previous teams left us no roadmap. So, essentially, go into things with a plan.
And a plan that isn't a 10-year plan. We can easily use all the mechanics we've developed for having events, having storyline, engaging players in ways that aren't tied to a deep and ongoing conflict that we don't see any quick resolution to.
Right, but do you think Gallia was originally a 10-year plan? I don't.
I have no idea what the plan was.
That's fair.
I'm not convinced there was an idea that there would be disco for 10 more years. When
I think we need to actually acknowledge that first. No one thought that we would survive this long. No one. Sorry, let me just append that. No one thought that we would keep dying and last nailing for the
Ah,
last 10 years.
final nailing.
Yeah, final nailing. That's the new term to this. So, next one, or would you like to add something?
Uh, I think that we asked if it was a success or a failure. I
The answer
I guess we
is
kind of touched on
yes.
that. Yeah, the answer is yes. It's had successes, it's had failures. I think the past 10 months have largely been successful, but that's me. That's my personal opinion.
We're definitely proud of what we've done.
I'm going to
Right.
add this as just from the standpoint of a player. Whether or not it was a good idea at the start is kind of irrelevant, considering Disco is basically the history of all the players, the time and effort the players put into the game. And if you even consider that Gallia in the end is or was a bad Justin finished my donut. Is or was a bad idea, then I think that it risks undermining basically all of the effort that people actually have put into that thing. Because the moment it sprang up, people went to do roleplay for the existing factions that were offered, and they did diplomacy. Effort was made, right?
That's very true.
So I think it was if the intention was to give people something new to play with, then I think mission success. I mean,
Yeah,
people
something
still
new to
people
I
play
agree.
with was
these
absolutely
characters exist. They are still being logged. So from the standpoint of mod content, it was successful.
Okay, I think that
Okay,
covers that one.
pretty much. So, next one by Laz. Why are you doing this and not Cellrock? This is a genuine question, as I know he does VC and he's the development head, and you're not.
Right. So here are my thoughts on that. Do you want Cameron here doing a podcast, or do you want the game being worked on? Because anyone who has ever had Git access knows that Zarok does the vast majority of the actual heavy lifting on Discovery. In this case, personally, I'd rather have him doing that, and if he wants to delegate to us as spokespeople, which is the intent here, then I think it's a working status quo. Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Robert?
Nope. Moving on.
Moving on.
Okay.
Next one is by Spectre. Can Gallia be reverted to 4.85 status, minefield and all, please? Can this be a thing? Previous to also, what do you think the dev team has learned from Gallia, from the Gallic War, that will translate into the upcoming future of Discovery? I actually think you did touch upon this in the previous one, where you said basically the idea was not to do overly elongated stuff.
Yeah, so we've touched on the latter half of that. Whether or not Gallia is going to be reverted to its previous state, do you think that falls under NDA, Robert? I don't. But...
I don't. I'll say that it's not our intention to revert anything, especially not back 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, exactly.
It's definitely not our intention to say, okay, all the roleplay that's been done in the pre-versioning time didn't happen.
Can I quickly note that most of the players commenting on this thread weren't even around 5 or 6 years ago?
Yeah, I had noticed that. I really had. So these are
there
people who
is
don't
there
know Gallia or they don't know Discovery without Gallia.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So this is something from my I think this is appropriate to ask here for a moment. I mentioned in my thoughts video regarding the current situation with the Gallic War and everything, I said that considering this is a closing chapter, right, where things can get kind of condensed and made digestible for players in the future, new or old, to look back and basically have a TLDR as to what happened during this time in Disco, right? Because we kind of need to obviously condense it so that you can explain what happened, right?
Yeah, so new players have, an understanding of what's actually going on in this mod. Yeah.
So the question is, we're not talking about retcons here, obviously, but we're talking about is there parts of player contributed roleplay that you are willing to prune out of the Discovery history when it comes to Gallia, the period of the Gallic invasion?
So
I don't think we have to. I think that's going to happen naturally just as time goes on.
People are going to forget.
People are going to forget.
but
It's
the
going to
thing
go
is,
into the
you're going
deep
to-
corpus of what is the online thing. But the stuff that gets put into the text of the mod
Yeah, exactly.
is such a narrow sampling of that.
Would you say, and I have a feeling this might be for the future of these sort of talks, would you say that it is currently possible to condense the Gallic invasion storyline of Disco into a one-paragraph sentence to explain to a new person if they're joining
There was
Disco?
another house. It had an angry king. They invaded. And then whatever else happens.
Would you like to try to write it up for the next one? Or whenever
I
the
can-
next one happens?
Sure.
I think that really depends on whether or not we
Well,
do
after-
the next one of these
after-
before the war.
After...
Yeah.
No, that's the thing. After all of this is concluded.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
beautiful. Looking forward to that. Anything else from Spectres? He did multiple questions. And
Saint Denis is definitely the president and king of Gallia.
Yes. At the same time,
The Valor will probably be nerfed at some point in the future. We don't have plans to do so right now. Balance changing will be ongoing through the future.
I'm not necessarily sure where that comment from or about the Valor came from.
He asked about specifically the Valor. My point is that we are not shutting down development on the mod.
Okay. So
Okay.
Balance will be an ongoing project.
to clarify on that statement a little bit. That's not to say the Valor is definitely going to be nerfed. It's to say balance is not coming to a halt. We're not shutting down the mod. So that is.
I don't
to say
think
the Valor
that... I don't
nerfed.
think that
That'll
was
happen.
the... I don't actually think that that was the thing that he was asking. Actually, Freelancer Warzone, regarding the answer, he made a good point. Just the sheer amount, and I quote, just the sheer amount to work Gallia back to its original state is not worth it, considering the amount of problems that can arise from it. Just like with any retcon, really.
Yeah, that's true. That would be a lot of work.
Definitely.
Okay, next one. Sesopinich. Will Gallic vs All War be replaced with Council vs All War, or Liberty vs All War?
NDA.
Yeah, NDA.
NDA. Okay, fair enough. Next one by Clansus. I want to know the impact of the end of the war on the economy, such as trade routes, such as ore mining areas. For example, can I continue to deliver black market arms to province? Thanks. I'm going to very quickly ask, wouldn't you like to see for yourself what happens? What kind of shakeup in the economy it is?
Yeah, right?
Yeah. And to my previous point, work on the economy is not going to end. Things are going to continue to change.
I will say specifically on that one point of hauling, black market arms, munitions, what have you, to Provence. I mean, given the state of the system, that it's basically in a space mafia stronghold, I find it unlikely that that would ever end.
Check the chat. There was an interesting comment regarding the custodian and their disbandment impact on the lore.
So
quote.
when you asked me to check that, please give a name.
Okay, but I would check. Custody disbanded today. The Brotherhood was always against the alliance with Gallia due to their old guy in alliance. Has the team given any thought how to approach issues like this?
So, full stop, an official faction does not represent the entire NPC faction. The NPC faction and its direction are ultimately property of the development team. So when you are an official faction, that does not mean you get to make decisions for all of that faction's diplomacy, all of that faction's lore, so on and so forth. You are the official representatives of the faction that is being written. You are not writing the faction, you're representing it. So
It's I don't think it's even this problematic. It's just that it's a built-in failsafe. It's like factions, official or not, they come and go, so they cannot be dependent on
right.
the future of the NPC faction just by default, just by mortality.
In regards to the Corsairs and their alliance with Gallia in specific, we have thought about it. I can't tell you what we plan to do about it because NDA reasons.
Also, just happened today. Give the guys a
And
chance to react.
yeah, it did happen today, but because of the specific split between those factions in the Corsairs, that has been a thing that we have grappled with.
Okay, so next one, right? By
Yeah.
Nen, considering the end of the war may end up drastically changing the situation of certain factions, such as the GRN and Council, how do you plan on handling the associated player factions during this change? More specifically for me, how would MRG as an official faction be treated in the event Council wins?
So we've been in contact with faction leaders regarding this. Obviously, what exactly is going to happen is NDA. Faction leaders who need to know about the circumstances their official factions are going to be facing have been informed, and we are coordinating with them.
But
That
also
seems
don't expect for your faction to get
a good
deleted.
deal. Oh, well.
And also don't really expect them to always like you factions generally don't get a good deal at the hands of story. We are not in the business of providing utopia.
I think
We
that's
provide
a problem.
conflict.
That's probably a problem with the mentality of the community where equality in terms of attention when it comes to ships, balance, story assets, in-game assets, people treat balance and equality in the wrong sort of manner because you can't have everyone be winners. If a conflict arises, there's always going to be someone who gets dicked. For a lack of a
Here
better
is
word.
our design ethos regarding that. Yeah, there's always going to be someone who gets dicked. There's always going to be a winner and a loser.
But they need to be dicked interestingly.
Right. Let me finish, please. Our design ethos is that everyone ought to have something to do. If a faction is written into a corner and has nothing to do, then that is a failing of ours. One such faction, in fact, I think this is probably the most prominent example on Discovery of a faction with this issue, is the Mollies. We don't know what the hell we're doing with the Mollies. So there's that. We strive to avoid those kinds of situations.
You know, check the game real quick. If I didn't know better, I would think we're in Gamma.
Not really.
I mean, there's a yellowness to the star.
No. Like, the planet's placement. There's the blue giant, there's Crete, behind it is the, green field, then there's the star. This gave me a lot of Corsair vibes.
I'm not saying it, but I'll take your word for it.
Nah.
I can see it.
It's
Anyway.
fine. It's just me being a dumbass. Don't worry about it.
Robert, do you want to add anything to that question or line of discussion?
I think we're fine there. Durandal. Hi guys, don't wait. This is not a question. Okay.
You know, Spazzy did that last time too.
Prometheus, I hope you got the right news.
Sorry, what?
He was referencing an older comment regarding the time of this thing. He was asking you if there's any news on this. Okay, I guess I can't read Foxgloves, so someone else has to do that.
The question is, why talk to Spazzy in the first place? Real question. He is not really an active person or a member of the staff. Wouldn't it be better if it were you and, say, Zaurok?
So Spazzy is not a staff member nor an active player. That's true. What he is doing is he is facilitating a line of discussion between us and you, which I think is very valuable. And we've kind of lacked that kind of a motivator, that kind of a facilitator of communication for the team to do this sort of thing with you.
Yeah,
That
he's
was
the
a very
interviewer.
clunky way of wording that, but yeah,
There's
he's
another
the guy
thing
doing the
about it.
interview.
There's another aspect to this, and the thing is, anyone could have done this if they took the initiative and just made a live stream interview with you.
Yeah, that's
Why are
absolutely
you
true.
doing it? Why are you doing it with me? Is because I had the fucking idea to do it, and here we
You had the
are.
wherewithal to rope us into this.
The
We're glad to
the
do it.
second thing about this is that I already talked to the staff about this in my previous time when I was going away from the mod for a while. If not for the fact that my YouTube channel has a lot of hidden personal videos on it, I would have already given this channel and all of its subscriber base to Disco, because 90% of the active subscribers who watch these videos are the Disco player base.
Huh.
So putting it on this channel was necessary.
Yeah, that makes sense. I would agree with that.
Okay.
Next question.
Will this AMA ever happen? Hi.
Hopefully not.
Hi.
Okay. Klein is replying to a Diamond 1. It may not be very appropriate to say it here.
This is not. It's not AMA.
Oh,
I've
okay.
read that.
Okay, fair enough. I haven't. When
When
BBC
Already in the mod.
Okay,
that was
Cowden.
August 11th.
Yeah, I think Cowden is the next one. Question towards a Gallic War: will the player outcome counts on the destruction of the battleship from the Gallia side and from the Bretonia side? Also, hey Lexi Lon, welcome to the live stream.
If he's asking if an ongoing count of who has killed what is being kept, no. If he's asking if there are events where the winners and losers affect the storyline, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not really super clear on what he's trying to ask there. So.
Okay, Wesker is asking, if the monarchy just goes kaput, wouldn't redemptions and council capital ships just get tossed out of the mod? Just curiosity, I don't mind who wins at this point.
It's not our plan to chuck the assets.
Yeah, I already addressed that last AMA. Was nobody's assets are getting chucked.
Would you consider removing the sell points?
NDA.
Fair enough, NDA. Groshier is asking, what is going to be after the war? Just a few words about possible future of Sirius and Gallia.
Well, I'd say that's definitely NDA.
You know, you could have come up with, like, hints.
Well,
yeah, just to tease people with.
I did hint at a lot of stuff last time.
Either Bretonia surrenders, or it doesn't.
One way or the other, the fight is going to end. And also, Durandal is saying 5 minutes, boys. Oh wait, that's not a question. Alex is telling Pappy Justin to check your Discord. Last week.
That's great and all. But,
yeah. Sauron, I suppose it might fall under the no spoiler clause, but what are your plans for Edinburgh and or Gaia in the future?
Oof. I can make a statement towards this that doesn't breach the NDA, which is so long as the Gaians hold Aquitaine, their plan is to continue doing in Aquitaine what they've said they're going to do in Aquitaine.
Regardless of who sits on it.
Mr. Smith just asked the question in the chat, by the way. Take a look at it when you get. And sorry about that. That was my recording being jittery. Mr. Smith, did you answer the previous question?
What was the previous question?
The one that I read.
All of the nations involved in Edinburgh and Aquitaine have set policies towards the place, and depending on who controls them, those policies will be in effect. I think that kind of sums it up without breaking any
NDA.
NDA.
Okay, Mr. Smith just asked in the chat, I have a very specific question. Will the Great Hunt event still have an impact on the end of the war with Gallia's secret project and all? Or was
Oh,
its outcome considered too controversial?
that I can absolutely answer. Yes, that will have a impact on the end of the war, and that will be visible within the next couple of events.
Well, there you go. There you go, Mr. Smith. Next one is Hashi. Can you tell us anything about Rhineland and the coup that is being planned out?
That's really outside the scope of this AMA. This is end of the Gallic War.
Thurzul's asking what happens to the tea after the war.
There's gonna be tea.
Beautiful. Okay, what else do we have here? Karst did a thing. Okay, since there's going to be more parts, I'm going to continue where I left off. Thank you for a response. But my last question asked about the lessons the dev team considered important, but also what the player base, and get this, what the player base should have considered important. Not specifically what they did, but what they should have. Well, I guess let's quickly rephrase that. Oh my god. Also, let's rephrase that. What do you guys as devs wish the players would have taken away from all of this?
I'm gonna leave that to you, Robert.
Yeah, Robert. Share.
What do we wish that the players thought were important?
No. As a developer and the whole Gallic situation, what? So the question, or the original question was, what do you as a dev take away? Like, what did you learn? You know, the good and the bad and everything. The question modified was, what do you wish the players had learned?
And how they should have gone about sharing their ideas and making their concerns heard. The deeply chilling, brutish realpolitik of it is the people making the mod are making the decisions. The next level of that is that we're generally trying to be as open as we can to the opinions of players.
But
And
they are opinions, right?
they're opinions, and they're balanced by 100 other opinions from 1,000 other people on 1,000,000 other perspectives. There is a voice for the advancement of every opinion.
I think that covers it.
And it's been our role to try and thread the needle and do something we find reasonable, engaging, dramatic, and fun.
So Karst also has a actual story question. What the storyline of Bretonia versus the independent Omegas, or IMG and Zoners in other words, be continued? Or will they just remain passive victims to what some might consider a unfairly railroaded unlikely success of the primary benefactory house of the current storyline?
That particular plot arc regarding Bretonia and its presence in the Omegas and the people they have uprooted and displaced is certainly not concluded.
In point of fact, there's an event regarding that coming up soon. Not an official event, but people are involved, and we're not turning a blind eye to Omega for the foreseeable future.
Okay.
Those are people following us.
They are people. I was trying to like take us away from civilization, but you kept turning around. So
I have my hood off. I don't know people are there.
Oh, my mistake. It's okay. The people seem to be going away. All is
Dot
well.
kill.
I don't have that permission anyway. Nor would I ever use it.
I mean, the worst thing that happens is that you get pirated.
So, and the last thing he says, I guess the scary
Ominous?
comment about the action in Omega suggests there will be more, but are there any spoilers you can give? There's an Osiris following me.
I don't see an Osiris.
I can see it. It's lagging right behind me.
I don't... What?
There's an oh. Don't worry about it. The outline of your ship looks like an Osiris.
Alright, well, that's moving swiftly onwards.
Moving swiftly onwards.
So
Durandal is bumping for visibility. Okay.
I think that's probably NDA specifics of Omega.
Stay tuned to find out. Junior
Yeah.
Terrorist asking, carrier Hades should affect the war since Tau 31 is the fastest road to Bretonia. Also, why are the lanes and gates replaced in the war zone when in Zurich, which is next to Picardy, still underdeveloped regarded to lands and gates?
So I can answer two of those questions. I can answer one of those questions, and I can say, why are people pronouncing Hades as Hades? I'm not sure why that keeps happening, but anyway, Hades should have an effect on the war. Well, it's already had a huge effect on the war. It has severed Gallia's primary logistic artery to Bretonia. It has had a huge impact on the war.
Does that somehow show in the in-game assets, though?
I mean, if you fly out to Tau 31, you have 3 info cards sitting there. You have Hallman, you have Hades itself, and you have New Tours, which was renamed to Barra Anchorage. And all of those info cards, I believe, do a pretty good job of reflecting that. In addition,
And ownership of those assets and the locations of other in-game assets that will not move or would have moved or have moved in relation to.
Freaking Future Spazzy should have intervened. So, any more comments on that? Or shall we go for the next one?
there was a...
I want
second
to talk
half it
about the
regarding-
lanes and gates.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, go for it.
In Picardy, we have an ongoing gate and lane construction, which we're doing on the schedule that we think is reasonable for gate and lane construction. In the line from Gallia through the Taos to Leeds, now into London, there are a group of Agira lanes which should be failing and should have been failing over the last 8 years that fell out of developer scope to address, and so they sat there. And we were forced to either say Agira lanes last forever with no maintenance,
Which is not our stance.
Yeah.
or to make a retcon in support of the argument that over time, EFL has been installing working lanes along the GRN's main supply routes.
So neither actually sounds like a good thing. Quick question from a mechanical perspective: is there a chance you can make a lane disruption encounter that doesn't spawn NPCs?
That would be a question for Zarok.
Zarok, yeah, because then you could actually have them remain there and actually enforce the idea that they are in fact failing by
I
knocking
think it's
people
possible.
out, just knocking people out in the open on random.
I am fairly certain that it is possible.
Especially if someone else codes it.
Ah,
I am sure
think-
everything is possible.
You could kludge it together with an invisible NPC with invisible guns that is not hostile to anyone. But still
I don't
turns
think
off the
that's even
lanes.
necessary.
Yeah,
But
Okay.
anyway,
It's very doable.
it's doable. Liberty LN is okay. So Are you going to increase the overall online server? If so, how? Perhaps new trailers or something like that. Are you going to encourage players to help with this? If you don't, why? I'm going to quickly answer that simply from the perspective of someone who makes freelancer content. Be more like Diamond, be more like Snake Lancer. They are running just constant content on Twitch, on YouTube, etc., etc. If you want, that is how you popularize a game. It's not the job of the people who are making the content, it's your job to take the content of the game, use it to make something that is interesting, and spread the word.
And if
And
players are
sorry.
interested in doing that, I don't know what help I can be to them except to say, yeah, great, sounds cool. And I will
We
facilitate
tried that.
events if you want events. But there doesn't seem to be an interest.
No, there is an interest. That's the thing. Remember, back in the dark days when I actually had to do admin things, we, for a moment, had the community. Oh, what was it? It was either the community media or the community contributor. Yeah, community contributor role, where people would go in, make either posts, spread the word, post in forums, make content and everything that is. There was a huge amount of feedback for it and huge amount of interest for it. The activity of those people fell within 2 weeks because they realized they, with how Freelancer is, and it's not the most unstressful game, especially with a community and especially on a roleplay server, treating it as a job on top of that and logging in for the sake of something you need to do,
Yeah, it's not the most terribly fun thing to treat as a job.
and not everyone can do it.
And people do this in their free time. It's not a job, which
Exactly.
is one of our major development limitations is people will do in their free time what they're willing and interested in doing.
Justin Senpai, Adam K is asking you to notice them.
Consider yourself noticed.
Good man. Next one. What fate awaits the snack? Will this gun work like in the old age, or will the balanced adjustments remain unchanged? I don't think
Outside the
this is.
scope of this
That's good,
anime.
yeah. Will capital code guns be obtained not
Outside the scope of this anime.
fair enough. How are you going to motivate factions of players to increase their own activity? Yeah, how are you going to motivate players to increase their own activity, Justin?
It's a good question, isn't it?
One of the things we have been doing is trying to create enough events, and I know a lot of our recent events have been Gallic this, Gallic War that, Gallic War this, but combat and trade events in different areas of the server that lean into the idea that today we are focusing on the Blood Dragons, and tomorrow we are focusing on the Corsairs, and tomorrow we are focusing on this silly trade route between Tau and Omega. And in that way, we are trying to say this faction that doesn't necessarily always get the core of the player base, we're going to try and drag more of our active players over there. So
And
that is something we think about.
I should note that the intent there is not necessarily, okay, this is what everyone's going to do this week, and then we're going to do something else next week. That, at least to my mind, is not the intent. My intent with that would be to introduce people to an area of the mod that they are not usually exposed to, and then hopefully have those people gain an interest in that region, in that line of roleplay, so on and so forth.
Completely
Essentially,
agreed.
broaden people's horizons.
One of the ideas that we used to do back in the day was the fact that if you advertise a event somewhere where people don't usually go and they specifically create characters for that event, it's not like they're going to just instantly delete these characters once the event is over. They're going to remain there in the huge amounts of characters they already have. And if there is something going on there, or they have this sudden inspiration to log these characters there, they have the assets to actually go there.
They'll have made
That
the
they
assets.
would, yeah, that they wouldn't otherwise have.
And that's another reason why events are locked to certain IDs. Because, okay, it's awesome that you've got this character that's gone all around Sirius and done all these things.
But other
But
characters need some love as well.
we kind of want, hey, try a BPA for this one. Try a Corsair tomorrow. Just have that thing. And yeah, not all of our events are going to be good for your specific story character.
But that's not your job. What else? How will further events develop on the server? Will there be a choice in which the victory of one of the parties will affect the outcome of the event plus plot of the game? Will the battle points be displayed on the forums as it was before? And if not, why?
We've already done this. We've been
And we're
doing
going to
this.
continue
We're
to do it.
actively doing this.
We're not going to stop doing this. So, yes.
If there is a question like this, so I guess the obvious question is, are there going to be more impactful, like immediately impactful events that aren't related to the major story focus?
Okay, I would say yes. I'm a little disappointed that because of Gallia, we haven't had a chance to do more stuff like that recently. But yes, I would love to.
Oh, there you go.
I think anything we have time to spend our attention on becomes part of the grand story. That's part of the nature of our attention.
Will the mod develop graphically in the future? I mean, the players often offer their own freelancer designed options. Will you follow any one without affecting the vanilla pieces of the game? Will you call on these very players to help you draw up your graphic line for freelancer?
So that's outside the scope of the AMA, but I do want to touch on it because
Gallia technically was, wasn't it?
How do you mean?
Well, Gallia introduced new types of trade lanes, horizontal ones, planets.
A series of art.
Yeah,
Was not Noah.
Right, but that's not what I took away from that comment. What I think is being asked there is about graphical contributions by players, and I will say that in the past, particularly up until about 2014 or so, Discovery did not have a terribly high bar set for the quality of their graphical assets, and we have raised that bar. So if it fits within our quality standards, yes, we will accept it. And well, no, let me reiterate. If it fits within the mod, if it has a place within the mod, and if it meets our quality standards, yes, we are interested in content submissions. But it's actually a fairly big issue we face where people make submissions that are not up to standard, and we try to explain how to improve them.
I'm frightened. Actually,
they don't seem to really pick up on that all the time.
That's even true in the writing.
Yeah, that is true. It's not just an art thing.
The obvious question here is, what if someone commissions a professional modeler to make them like, for example, someone made a Jera ship line. Technically, that's not just content submission. This is impacting in the game. This is giving work for the balance team, etc., etc. So when you say that you're open to the contributions, you probably meant to say that there is probably some sort of line you need to draw?
I actually already touched on this. I said if it fits within the game, and if it meets our quality standards.
That is a...
So if it fits
and
within
our
the
fits
game,
our aesthetic,
yeah,
we may not take it, but there's a compelling case to be made of, especially depending on how complete the work is, throwing some effort into getting the balance right, getting the system files set up properly, making it saleable.
Then I'm going to quickly append his question real quick. Would you consider making a small list of things you would... they are necessarily not priority things, but what kind of things you would like to see if people have the time to create. Are there any things you would like
give me
to
one.
see?
I'm going to leave that as an answer within the chat. We have this right here. This is the Discovery GC model to-do list. And there are a list of models on there that can be claimed that we are currently looking for replacement ships for, or brand new ships to fill those roles. So there you go.
N30 Let's Plays is asking in the chat, might be a stupid question, with the climax of the war taking place in New London, what will be the final deal with Liberty and Gallia? Will tensions still be high?
Robert?
I'll say, to an extent, that's cloaked by my NDA, but the climax of the war is taking place in New London, but the rest of the zones of the war, from California through to Upper Tau, are getting resolved in different ways depending on ongoing things.
I think
And I
that's
would
about the best we can. Yeah.
expect tensions to be high after an invasion.
I'm going to ask one quick question from myself. So, in any story game, or in any game in particular, pacing is one of the key objectives. You cannot have full-on octane brawl 24/7. Is there any plans to have Disco without any dev inputted conflict that would suggest the players make their own without
So
rails?
I kind of touched on this last time, but it was on my own accord. Nobody asked it as a question. So I was saying in the last AMA that we hope to kind of get to a point where players generating their own activity, as they did more back in 0.85, becomes a thing again. That's largely what I was talking about. And again, not player-driven story, but just allowing players to do their own things within the scope of the current lore. Yeah, we absolutely want that. And I think there are a couple of areas that could be, well, a couple of areas. Quite obviously, Bretonia, Gallia, Tau, that we could be less heavy-handed in and allow players to kind of be a bit more fluid there.
Okay.
Robert, do you want to?
I mean, I think you handle that
Okay.
well.
Well, considering we are we're nearing the end of the list. The seventh question from Liberty. We are all aware that there are many trade routes in Freelancer. Each, in its own way, is convenient and unique. Do you have a way in which not only gold, aluminium to be used?
That sounds
That's-
outside the
that
scope of this
sounds
anime.
How do you plan to develop the mechanics of gaming POBs? Will the player
That's again.
Definitely outside of the
Yeah.
scope and a rabbit hole.
and a rabbit hole? Okay, and that is actually the end of the list.
Wow. We kind of breezed through those. I was expecting this to
Okay,
go on
chat.
a bit longer. Yeah, chat.
Chat. Hi, chat.
Hi, chat.
We know that you exist. I am currently, at the time of saying this, 55k away from this blue giant. You have until I hit the blue giant to ask any questions. Also, we're nearing 49 minutes, so this is going to end in 10 minutes. Adam K was
Oh, the stream has paused.
It
You know,
shouldn't
so
be.
it has.
It shouldn't be. It's running fine on my side.
Huh. All right. Well, people are still commenting. So.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Yeah, give us questions.
You've got 38k until we hit the time.
Quick, man! Give us the questions! Freelancer Warzone, go to Impulse.
Type.
I don't know. That sounds like a very long trip.
Which was the question you asked, Adam K?
Yeah, Adam, what was your question? Do you feel the heat? So something's burning.
Getting a little hot in here, isn't it?
It's August.
No, that's the
We're
freaking
talking
star in
about
front of us.
Yeah. I mean, it may well be August. I'm not sure what season it is in Sigma 59, but you know,
August.
sure.
It's the final countdown. Do-do-do-do.
Most critical time to run out of things to ask.
Oh, Adam. Oh, hi, Karst.
Oh yeah, of course it's Karst.
Of course, it's
I
Karst.
only know 2 Adams on Discovery, so.
And you couldn't figure it out. You are dead. Get luck
All right,
next time.
guys, you have until my nanobots run out. All right, I'm dead.
Neo 30, are there anything else planned for Gallia in terms of content after this goes down? Or are you going to stay away for...
Yes, hard yes.
Hard.
There will be new content for... Well, for everyone, really. I mean, we intend to add new content for everyone. But in regard specifically to Gallia, yes, new content. So...
I think this is it.
Yeah, I think so.
We can sort of make a new thread, you know, see if it fills up for a future, not specifically next week or, you know, the week after, but for just a future AMA.
I think once we get 3 pages of questions, we can maybe fill an hour. 3 pages of questions.
We got to the end of the second one, but then again, we did a lot of rambling in the first one. I think, yeah, two should be fine.
I'm thinking maybe we don't do this again until the war concludes, because people will be able to
I have an idea. How about we don't do this anymore? Thanks.
Yeah, let's never do this again.
I thought this was a pretty good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm completely down to do this again. And
question for Spazzy: are you going to return properly and do stuff? Yes.
I don't think anyone ever returns quote properly.
Yeah,
and
that
does stuff.
You know, the thing is,
he might return improperly.
Yeah, I'm going to return. No. I'm going to return indecently.
He's not going to return with the vigor of a 2012 individual who's just discovered it and fallen in love with this new thing. And I mean, you yourself have hit on this point that like the attention span.
Yeah, I just don't have time anymore. Like, I come home from work at 5 p.m. and I take a nap, and then I have like 2 hours I'm willing to sit at the PC. I have much more time than that, but there's home things I can do, there's work things I can do, fitness, stuff like that. Ice Princess, I love chicken. I love chicken as well. Especially smoked.
I would like chicken.
I would like chicken. Okay, we're doing this. Freaking cooking with Spazzy. New twist. And name every dish. Name every dish.
Delightful cooking.
And name every dish after disco things. Hi.
God damn it.
What?
Spectre asked a little while up here. Guess I'm waiting until the next AMA. Spectre, questions. What are they? Ask now or forever hold your peace.
They're right here. Are there any plans you can reveal about any of the smaller factions exposed to the Gallic War after the inevitable end of war?
Which factions weren't exposed to the Gallic War?
Pretty much everything except the Edgeworlds was.
I mean, you could argue that like the smaller militants in Kusari and in Rhineland are only very tangentially affected.
Yeah, I think that people...
So there are specific questions here. HF, Molly's, Gaian, CR, IMG, Brigands. Some of those aren't so small.
The Gaians have currently a huge new problem in Aquitaine. The CR are kicking about up in Tau. The IMG are in a very interesting position and continue to do what they've been doing and try and get back Alland. The Gallic Brigands are not going to be talked about at all.
Cough.
I think a lot of this, because the question is planned, so really a lot of this is outside the scope of the AMA. So are there plans for the most of those? I would say yes. I can specifically tell you two that there aren't plans for, which, kind of ashamed of. But that's Molly's and Brigands. Like, I mean, it's Molly's, which I already mentioned earlier in this AMA. We don't really... The Mollies are kind of in a corner right now. Brigands are just kind of pirates. Like, what do you do with a faction that's just pirates? It's kind of their nature, just to pirate.
They're going to continue to make money by being bad men.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna quickly tell you, the more I need to stop thinking about the cooking show thing that we made as a joke.
We could make a delightful cooking show.
No, listen. Okay, you know how people that do streaming professionally, they have the green screens behind them so they can place themselves on the screen and not take up a lot of time. Can you imagine me putting a green screen on the tiles in front of my cooking area so that people can stream freelancer stuff as if I'm standing on the freaking bridge of a Liberty Navy battle cruiser and cooking? Help! The more I'm thinking about this...
I mean,
you could seriously use the gun ports, or not the hardpoint mounts on the BBC as induction cooking pads.
You could. Have you seen the? Yeah, you've seen. The
I'm pretty sure the rogues do that with their ships, because of course.
Oh, good. I'm glad someone does.
I mean, that's just being useful, using your equipment.
Let's using the old noodle.
Is there any way to unretcon any of the genuinely interesting Gallic systems? Which is the series of systems that have been cut off.
Oh, the triple stacked planet one?
We've got 2 problems. First is sprawl. Discovery has a certain number of players who want to interact with one another. And if they all start out sprinkled at random, well, I mean, I have to assume that everyone logging into a multiplayer game is trying to
That's actually not true, which is kind of... I have issues with it, but it's not true.
I refuse to accept your hypothesis. So, like, we could add 3 more systems.
I reject your reality and subjugate my own. Substitute. Sorry. Subjugating reality is probably not a good
1% less likelihood that any person starting up an account at random, not an account, launching a character at random, it starts in a system with anyone else in it.
Now, I've kind of answered this last interview. Do we have plans to add more systems? Yes, but we're only going to add more systems in such a way that they can be easily blockaded, or that they don't act as shortcuts, that they don't move around activity centers.
Would you consider putting in more okay, so you know how you have these systems between the houses that always offer some sort of avoidance of being blocked? Would you say that removing these kind of detours be not good for mustering just people, encouraging people to blockade and then to get rid of the blockades?
There ought be... Justin, go ahead.
We really removed a lot of these detours back in Tyrann's era. And I want to stress that if you look at the map right now, you can look at a number of systems that are bottlenecks. If you look at Kyushu for Kusari, that's the only quick, reasonable way into the towels. If you look at Texas for Liberty, that is the only way for, unless you want to go up through Alaska, for traders and capital ships from Rhineland to get into Liberty. So we have made efforts to provide choke points wherever possible. Trimming any more fat is really likely to affect certain factions negatively.
Oh no.
So that's why we've tried to avoid doing it.
Karst
what's going on?
Karst just asked a loaded questions. Okay, I have a real question. How's the
That's
ID
outside
will
the scope
work?
of the AMA.
Just like the cooking show, actually.
Yeah, well, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
The asteroid hardly moving in front of the bottom from the screen is giving me anxiety. It's gone now. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say I think that about wraps this up, unless
Yeah, it's exactly 0-0. Okay,
Yeah.
guys, thank you for joining us. This was an amusing thing, and I would certainly like to do this more. At some point.
Yeah, I would like to do another one of these once the war is concluded, and we can have a more
Yeah, once
guess
there's
sort of
things to talk
discussion
about.
yeah.
And do some sort of retrospective on this event affected this outcome in a way that is obvious to us because we thought about, oh crap, the Hades did X, Y, or Z, what happens now? But it isn't obvious to someone who is just watching one line of history. If you don't have the possible tree of what may or may not have happened in your memory, you just see, and the devs decided this happened, and then they decided this next thing happened, and the next thing happened, and the next thing happened. You don't see our if-ors and our strangenesses and our twists.
Quirks.
But you will.
You should probably do a separate thing on your own where you just list the quirks of the dev team. You know, the dev team articles. You know how the admins did their Tales of Admins sort of thing? You obviously don't have the time for that, but that would be a interesting little thing. Okay, guys, we are wrapping this up. Thank you once more for joining us, and we'll see you the next time. Fly safe.
See y'all next time.